But for many, it'll be a fine and dry evening. I did mention a few showers just coming into western parts of Scotland. Pretty well scattered, so somewhat hit and miss. Much of eastern Scotland dry, along with central and southern Scotland. A fine evening here. Same goes for Northern Ireland. Clear at first, but we will see the cloud increasing later on. And for most of England and Wales, much of this evening dry with lengthy clear spells. But eyes out west, because developing during the course of today a storm system. This is Storm Ashley, named by Met Éireann, the Irish Weather Service, but it is likely to bring some problems to parts of the UK. As we go through the night, it'll start to introduce wet and windy weather to Northern Ireland, the rain spreading into Wales and the southwest as well. It will introduce milder conditions. Ahead of it, it will turn a little chilly. And then for tomorrow, spell of wet weather swinging through, but it's the winds giving us the greatest cause for concern. A Met Office yellow warning covering Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northwest England and North Wales, and an amber warning for the far northwest, where gusts of 70 to 80 miles an hour could cause some disruption. Potential for structural damage, even branches and trees down. Further south, just a wet and windy day, but across the north in particular, Storm Ashley could cause some problems tomorrow.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
This is the final week to grab your chance to win £36,000 cash in the Great British Giveaway, and you really could be next.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan and I won £30,000. Winning the money enabled me to treat my children, which I've not been able to do for a while. And if I can win, anyone can win.
For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2, or post your name and number to GB08 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close 5 p.m. this Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
My kingdom for a voice. Scientists have, I can't believe this story, scientists have incredibly recreated the voice of Richard III using both his skull shape and a knowledge of medieval speech patterns. Me neither. The result is that the king, who was famously killed at the Battle of Bosworth in 1485, would have spoken in English close to that of a man from modern-day Yorkshire or Somerset. Let's take a listen.
The sun shines with no less light and splendour, nor does it suffer any diminution of its strength.
Let's discuss this further with Yvonne Morley-Chisholm, the voice coach behind the project, who spent 10 years researching how the monarch would have sounded. Yvonne, you can probably see from my face, I have no idea how this works. Can you enlighten me as to what all this is about?
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Dawn. So yes, I had a mad idea 10 years ago. I normally work with actors where we have a recording of a historical person, and we do something called vocal profiling to train the actor who's going to be performing on stage or screen to move their tongue tip, their jaw, their lips, everything, and get behind the personality of who they're playing. We obviously have quite a lot of that missing from Richard. We don't have a recording of him, but I wondered how far we could go. And a key player in this has been and is Professor Caroline Wilkinson, who over a decade ago created his face, first of all, from his skull. Now, on the day we, as Shakespeare would say, shuffle off our mortal coil, every little dent and dimple in the bones says how fit and strong the muscles were. So I thought, OK, we know what his face could do.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, I'm Ellie Costello alongside Ben Leo, and this is Saturday Morning Live.
Very good morning to you. Thanks for your company this morning. We've got an action-packed show in store. All of the day's top stories with Alex Cairns and Matthew Laza.
The King and Queen continue their 6-day tour of Australia as they are greeted by the country's Prime Minister and a torrential rainstorm. Our royal correspondent Cameron Walker is in Sydney for us.
Well, welcome to Sydney, where the King and Queen have spent their first night down under, the first time ever that a reigning king has stood on Australian soil. I'll bring you the very latest.
Lucky you, Cameron. Great gig. Elsewhere, the race to the White House is on as Donald Trump and Kamala Harris hold rallies in the swing seat of Michigan.
Former Tory MP Miriam Cates is in Croatia for the second European Congress on Family. She's going to join us live from Dubrovnik in the next hour.
And as celebs such as Harry and Meghan flock to Portugal due to lower tax rates, are we all missing a trick by staying in Blighty?
Well, it would certainly be warmer, wouldn't it? Interested to talk to Miriam Cates a little bit later on because she's in Dubrovnik at the moment, and one of the biggest questions she's going to be trying to tackle at this conference is how do we make the young people of Europe have more babies? And I know that's a topic you feel very, very passionate about.
Yeah, I'd like a third child. I'd like a big family.
Desperate for a third. In fact,
Look,
you want 10.
I understand it. People don't want kids because they haven't got homes, they can't afford it, they kind of look at the news and the world and say, why would I want to bring a child into the world?
This, yeah.
But my argument now is just do it and find a way, because otherwise, as Elon Musk says, the future of humanity is at stake.
Right. I'm not sure that's the best advice. Just be like, just honestly, just go for it and then work it out later.
And you know what? I'm going to be getting a lot of stick from viewers on gbnews.com/yoursay for doing that. They'll be saying, I guarantee, and I'll read them in a second, they'll be saying, Ben, don't be so irresponsible to say bring kids into the world regardless of your situation. But yeah, I just think we need it.
I'd be inclined to agree with them. You've also seen a story in the Mail that's caught your eye this morning.
Yes, let me just grab this.
Grab it.
Out of shot. Here we go. It says, trapped? No. Couples with children are rarely stuck in unhappy marriages. The widely held view that many parents are trapped in loveless, unhappy marriages is a myth. So apparently, according to this new research, couples who are neither happy nor unhappy, they're kind of just plodding along, getting on with it, they are at most risk of breaking up.
Oh, right, OK. But if you have children, you're not desperately unhappy. Is basically what the
exactly.
Is today.
But it poses a good question. Should you stay together for the kids if you're unhappy? Should you kind of just grind it out decade after decade? Or should you maybe go and seek ventures new elsewhere?
Yeah, or are two happy homes better than one unhappy one? Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/yoursay. But before we do anything else, our lovely Will Hollis is on the bulletins today.
A very good morning to you. I'm Will Hollis with your top stories. The Prime Minister has insisted the government will stick to its manifesto pledges amid reports the Chancellor may extend a freeze to tax thresholds. The Financial Times writes Rachel Reeves could raise £7 billion in revenue if the freeze is extended until 2028. It could help plug some of the £40 billion gap in the Treasury's finances, with a hope of avoiding a return to austerity. But critics say it will break Labour's promise not to raise taxes. The King and Queen have spent their first night in Australia ahead of their royal tour of Sydney and Canberra. The couple's 6-day tour of the country started yesterday with a greeting on the runway by Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. The visit includes a trip to the Australian War Memorial and Sydney Opera House, plus Parliament. GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker is in Sydney.
It's a rest day for the King and Queen's Day following their very long journey from the United Kingdom, partly a decision taken because of the King's cancer diagnosis, making sure he's got enough energy to carry out his engagements later on this week. The King and Queen has an informal cup of tea with the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese last night. Tomorrow they'll be attending a church service in northern Sydney where they are expected to meet members of the public.
However, the visit prompts questions over the country's future as a constitutional monarchy, with calls for it to become a republic. Earlier, Cameron spoke to Alexander Volz from the Australian Monarchist League, who says support for the King and Queen is strong.
I think the tour is going to go really well. We're very optimistic, and at the end of the day, it's a reminder of the significance of our system and just how wonderful it is for this country. We love a bit of patriotism in the Monarchist League. We're very proud of our country. We love being Australian. We love our King and Queen of Australia. And so, yes, we'll be distributing a lot of flags. I think we've got about 15,000 ready to go.
The father of pop star Liam Payne has arrived in Buenos Aires to begin repatriating his son's body. Jeff Payne was pictured visiting the Casa Sur Hotel, where the One Direction singer fell to his death from a third-storey window just days ago. Officials confirmed a search of the hotel found narcotics, alcohol and destroyed objects in the room. Liam's family say they are heartbroken. And back to the UK, a car being driven by a heavily pregnant woman flipped 3 times when it crashed with an unmarked police car in southeast London, according to an eyewitness. The witness told reporters he saw the police car driving on the wrong side of the road before it collided with her on Thursday night in Eltham. Both the woman and her baby died from their injuries. 2 police officers have since been discharged from hospital. An investigation by the Independent Office for Police Conduct has been launched. And could this be the comfiest seat in the country? Well, that's what the company making the chairs for the HS2 rail service is hoping. Passengers will be treated to 87 centimetres of legroom, 2 plug sockets and reclining features, according to manufacturers Alstom. After backlash against some existing services comparing seats to ironing boards, leaders say they hope to rectify the industry's pretty bad job designing seats. Those are your latest headlines. Now it's back to Ben and Ellie.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thanks, Will, and welcome to Saturday Morning Live. And loads of comments already.
Yes, what's about?
News inbox.
Oh, yeah, of course, yes.
And I like this one from Dave.
On babies.
Oh, you want to go into babies? Of course you do.
Babies, no, go ahead, sorry.
I'm just going to read Dave's that says, I'd like to see Spitting Image do a show about GB News. Some great characters on there. I think they're talking about us. And GB News would have a laugh at it as well.
Could you imagine? Have you ever had, you know when you go abroad, they get the street sketches where they make you look...
Caricatures.
That's it, yeah.
See, no, I don't think I can handle that.
The ego wouldn't allow it.
Just cry. No, I don't think I'd be confident enough to sit in front of a caricature artist.
Great idea, Dave. I've done it before. I found one from when I was about 10 in my mum's house the other day. Yeah, it's very funny. Yeah, I don't think I've got much of an ego. Bring it on.
I wouldn't say I have much of an ego either, but I just wouldn't have I'd probably burst into tears.
Yeah, a good idea. Spitting image, that'd be good. Jenny, you say, can we have an honest hands up at a guess who will win the US election? Who do you think will win?
I don't know. I honestly think it's on a knife edge at the moment. Genuinely, I think it could go either way. I think it does depend on the next 3 weeks. I think Kamala Harris did have some momentum when she first came into the race, but it's just become tighter and tighter, hasn't it? You think Trump?
I think Trump will storm it. Everybody say, Anne just said it then on breakfast, that it's too close to call. I really think Trump will storm it. Not because I want him to, I just think I look at the polling and the number of people attending the rallies and the momentum and the kind of the vibe behind it all.
I'd love to ask Nelson Aspin a little bit later on the programme.
Can't wait to talk to him.
Talking about... Oh, we love Nelson Aspin, don't we? We're talking about families, alt eggs, Ben wants more babies, and Miriam Cates is at a conference in Europe at the moment talking about the idea of family. How do we get young people in Europe to make more babies? They're worried about the birth rate, aren't they? Anne says, Ben, hubby and I are 38 years married. We didn't divorce, as neither of us wanted sole custody of our youngest son. The other 3 were fine.
Very good, Anne.
Babies.
Let me know what your youngest son did for you to not want to take custody of him. Michael, you say, Ben, you're right, just go for it. Kids with the same partner, you both get to work it out. I see women struggle when they have kids to multiple men, and none of them have stuck around. Yeah, interesting comment. I get a lot of stick for saying, just do it, the financials will work themselves out. And
I'm sure they always will, though.
I think you just find a way, though. You just find a way.
Yeah. I mean, they used to do it in the olden days, didn't they? Just put the baby in the drawer.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even be a cot.
Did you know?
Now, could you?
I saw this the other day. Did you know that, I think it was in the 70s, correct me if I'm wrong, guys at home, but we in this country used to leave babies in their prams outside shops and cafes whilst the mothers went in to eat and drink. Still happens
in Nordic countries anyway, where they've got very cold climates.
Could you imagine doing that in London?
Well, you definitely couldn't do that, could you, in London? But they do it in Nordic countries. Apparently it's very good for them. Regulates their...
Yeah. I like that. Nice idea.
And things. Anyway, cute views coming in. We love your company on a Saturday morning, don't we? gbnews.com/yoursay.
Yes, thank you for being with us. Now, the King and Queen have spent their first night in Australia ahead of their royal tour in Sydney and Canberra.
Yes, the Majesties were welcomed into the country by the Australian Monarchist League, who plan to drum up support for them down under.
Our royal correspondent Cameron Walker joins us live from Sydney now. Cameron, I must say good morning to you first of all. I'm very lucky that you've got probably the best gig in TV at the moment. You were soaked with rain yesterday. How's the weather been today? And most importantly, what are the King and Queen up to today?
Good morning, Ben and Ellie. Well, the rain has just about held off here. Yesterday, I was absolutely drenched, as was the King and Queen a little bit on the tarmac at Sydney Airport. But it's kind of warm rain, so it's a little bit different to Britain. But the Queen did joke on the tarmac that she'd brought the British weather with her when she was greeted by the Governor-General of Australia alongside a number of politicians. Ironically, all the politicians on the tarmac to greet the King and Queen when they stood off the Australian Air Force jet were Republicans. But even Anthony Albanese, the Australian Prime Minister, who shelved plans actually earlier this year to hold a republic in Australia, he warmly greeted the King and Queen, invited them for an informal cup of tea yesterday in his residence, which they did. He also released a statement saying their Majesties have a deep regard for Australia, and this visit will be an opportunity to showcase the very best of our modern and dynamic nation. And as you mentioned in your introduction there, I spent time this morning, well, my morning, your middle of the night, with the Australian Monarchists League. They are a group of volunteers who are going to be handing out thousands of flags to the crowds outside various engagements, all the different engagements that King Charles and Queen Camilla are attending over the next 6 days or so, trying to drum up support, welcoming the King and Queen to Australia. Of course, the first time ever that a reigning king has stepped foot on Australian soil. I don't know if we've got the clip of Alexandra Volz, the spokesperson. Please tell me if we do or not, because we do have a clip. Great. Well, this is a little bit of what he said about what he thinks of the King Charles and Queen Camilla's visit.
As you can see here, the Australian Monarchist League is out in full force celebrating what is a momentous occasion. I think the tour is going to go really well. We're very optimistic, and at the end of the day, it's a reminder of the significance of our system and just how wonderful it is for this country.
Well, the King and Queen have been resting today, partly due to the King's cancer diagnosis. Of course, you know, he's got cancer. He needs to rest in order to have the energy to carry out these engagements. Tomorrow, the first big public engagement will be a church service in North Sydney, where he's going to be meeting members of the public.
You've been up close and personal with both the King and Queen and the Australian public, haven't you, in the past few days? What's your sense of what the trip means to them? So the King and Queen and also the Australian public, because the boxes that we shared yesterday, it seemed that even if you're not a monarchist, they are very excited about this, just for the history of it all.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ellie, and I think even if they're not an absolute devoted monarchist, I think the Australian people who I've spoken to seem to be saying that they're a really welcoming people, and whoever comes to visit, they're going to make them feel very welcome. And I think we got a sense of that on the tarmac yesterday, because even though a lot of the politicians were Republican, they seemed very pleased and happy to see the King and Queen, and were very clearly polite to them. Now, clearly that's just optics in front of a lot of cameras on the tarmac, but I think the general sense we're getting is that the King and Queen are really wanting to spend time here in Australia, because 6 months ago we weren't sure if this trip was going to go ahead because of the King's cancer diagnosis. Concessions have had to be made, as we were discussing yesterday, but the fact the King has travelled halfway around the world to be here, I think, suggests just how important he's taking this particular trip.
See him looking so well, and good to see you as well, Cameron Walker, in front of the iconic Sydney Opera House. What a gig. We're very jealous.
Cameron, can I ask quickly what you're doing in your downtime? I'm sure our viewers would love to know what you're doing when you're not delivering some great royal updates. What have you been up to down under?
Well, downtime would be a fine thing, Ben. There hasn't been much of it, but it's just so amazing being in Australia, because this is my first time to Australia. The Sydney Opera House, of course, is behind me. We were slightly upstaged earlier on breakfast with Stephen and Anne, because this big cruise ship, which you might be able to see to my right, is a Disney cruise ship. It completely obscured the view of the Sydney Opera House. And yesterday, fun facts for you, all the images of King Charles lighting up the Sydney Opera House yesterday. It was actually meant to happen at 8 o'clock local time. It was delayed because a cruise ship was coming out of the port and it would have blocked everyone's view. So cruise ships are proving a bit of a nightmare in Sydney Harbour. So that's been my most exciting highlight, but hopefully I'll get a bit more downtime following the tour and Samoa.
Good stuff. Have fun, Cameron, and we'll catch up with you later in the show.
And get yourself a hot lemon and honey. It sounds like he's losing his voice. He's got no downtime. You see, he's talking to us.
Yeah, I don't believe that. He's trying to make us feel bad for him.
You can hear it in his voice. He's been working hard. Bless him.
It was pouring down with rain yesterday. Cats and dogs, absolutely soaked.
That made me feel quite good.
Really?
I was like, haha.
Yeah.
Still for you.
Right, we're joined now in the studio by Alex Cairns and Matthew Larser to go through all of the day's top stories. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Oh, well, I think we rather wish we were in Sydney Harbour too.
Yeah, we're all jealous, aren't we?
My dad was from Sydney. I've got a passport, so...
So you're an Aussie. What are you doing here, then?
Absolutely. Well, that's a good
What are you doing
Because I could. I'd miss you both too much.
Well, yeah, that's good.
I'd be off like a trot.
Would you go anywhere by here, wouldn't you? Look, Matthew, let's stay with you, actually.
Sure
This
do.
has caught my eye this morning. The number of pubs may reach critically low levels.
Absolutely. So what we're seeing is a decline in the number of pubs in Britain, and it's fallen. This is an absolutely astonishing figure. So it's basically fallen 10% in a decade. So do our maths. It doesn't take very long for that to happen. So if that carries on, we'd have, get this, only 1,000 pubs by 2074. So the big question is what will become extinct first, the bank branch on your high street or the pub on your street corner? And this is a kind of perfect storm for landlords and landladies of the cost of labour. Remember when the energy prices were at the high, we just realised just how much energy it keeps to keep the lights on in the local boozer. As well as as the cost of the golden nectar itself, so as they call it in Australia.
Well, talking about that, I was mentioning the other day to my father-in-law. I said when I first started going to the pub, I was 15.
Okay.
Half a lemonade, half a shandy.
I was nearly 16. I got half a shandy. No, we used to have Monday Club where a pint of Foster's was £1.50, and my father-in-law was saying, I went to London the other day. A pint was £8.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
And when you've got those kind of prices, why wouldn't you just go down the supermarket and get 16 tinnies for £5?
So you're going all Aussie now. Put the tinnies in the esky before you have the barbie.
Good day, mate. Why not?
Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree, actually. I think it's concerning. A lot of people look at the high streets and they're very concerned that it's looking quite glum, to be honest. Lots of things are closing. But the reality is it's because people are not buying from the high street. They're not going to the pub, People are just deciding, what they're going to do in their spare time. Are they really going to go to the pub, or are they going to potentially go to, David Lloyd or a Nuffield, join a gym membership? They're just looking at their expenses and just deciding, you know what, we're going to actually cut costs,
there's also the thing about younger people not drinking as much, because we're told that Gen Z are the sort of least... They're the least alcoholic young people, as it were, that we've ever had.
They don't drink, but they vape.
They vape.
Vaping instead.
And they drink coffee, because, of course, we'll think of all those old bank branches that have become coffee shops. So we're going to see more pubs end up as coffee shops, where people just sit on their laptops
There's too many
and nip
coffee
outside
shops
to vape.
now.
Yeah, that's all the high street is now. It's coffee shops or second-hand mobile phone tech shops.
Yes,
or vape shops.
Or barbers.
Or barbers,
That's literally it. I think it's such a shame.
Yeah. Some of the vape shops are amazing. They get so glamorous now with these kind of lit screens.
I'm 7 weeks free vaping.
Yeah, don't encourage it.
Ellie put me back on the wagon.
Quite right to.
Trying, I bet you it's not very good for you. This one caught your eye this morning, didn't it?
Yes. 100 Labour staffers being bussed or planed to America to canvass for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and not least, separate from them, the MP for Brentford and Isleworth, Ruth Cadbury, not associated with the chocolate brand.
She's part of the family.
Going a couple of weeks ago to knock doors and hold placards for Kamala Harris. Nigel Farage says this is election interfering. Elon Musk said this is illegal. Not sure it is. But Nigel said that it's stupid, especially if Trump wins.
And
a bad look.
Just to offer some balance, Labour have said this is perfectly normal.
Yeah, so I woke up this morning, actually, to a Facebook alert from somebody I've known for 30-odd years, who is a Labour sort of organiser. I'm not sure if she's still on the party staff. She's out there in Pennsylvania holding her Harris-Walz placards, but she's doing it in their own time. So what the problem would be is if the Labour Party sent them en masse as a donation, but what people do is people who work for the political parties tend to be political nerds, not tend to be, are almost exclusively political nerds. I know somebody who went in their summer holidays to the Democrat convention because that was their idea, not 2 weeks on a beach, 5 days in Chicago. So this is all kind of being done. It's basically, this is political nerds' idea of heaven, is knocking on doors in Pennsylvania.
They sound like a barrel of laughs. Well, what about the MP, Alex, Ruth Cadbury? She's a serving MP now for Labour. Surely that's a headache for Keir Starmer and David Lammy.
Well, yeah, it's a headache. I mean, Emily Thornberry was asked actually last night. I saw an interview on Newsnight where she was asked about this, and she actually talked about exactly what you just said. You know, they do in their spare time. The problem is it actually happens on both sides. You know, obviously Nigel Farage spent a lot of his time in the States. Interestingly, now he's actually decided that he's going to spend less time, probably because he's actually under pressure to do things for the people in Clacton. You know, shock horror, if you become an MP, you've actually got to do things, you know. But again, you know, Labour have just gone into office. I don't think it's a good look because actually the head of operations for the Labour Party did a big, I think it was LinkedIn post about, you know, we can facilitate the trip, and it looks like Labour almost facilitating it.
But then, interesting, that post has since been deleted.
Yeah. So it's not a good look. I think they really, you know, since they've gone into office, they really need to, everyone needs to have almost like a military-style operation to make sure that these small hiccups just don't happen, you know. The American election really, what's going to happen? We're going to go over there. We're going to have no impact at all. It's the same way if lots of American politicians or volunteers come over to the UK. They're not really going to make a difference, are they? You know, Americans don't want Brits coming over telling them how to vote, and vice versa, you know. I don't really, as you say, they're really interested and they're nerdy about it. That's fine, but, like, don't look like it's an organised trip, because otherwise it's going to look like you're using taxpayers' money to basically go over and campaign. It's
yeah, I mean, one of the problems you have as well is what do you do? Because actually, probably Brits in America are okay, but I remember one of the problems we had in the Scottish referendum was lots of English people wanted to go up and knock on doors. At that moment, it wasn't particularly useful, and our Scottish comrades said, you know, let's not flood the streets with English accents when we're trying to prove our Scottish.
Do you remember when Obama came here in 2016 for the Brexit vote and said you'll be back of the queue if you don't vote Remain? You know, and there was outrage.
Well, the public don't find it helpful, do they? They see it as meddling.
Yeah, it didn't move the needle, to be honest. I generally actually think when it comes to domestic elections, I really think that the things that matter are obviously the two candidates running, and I don't think Ruth Cadbury, I'd only heard of her because she was on a Labour kind of podcast thing. Like, she's not going to move the needle, is she?
OK, one last story. Tea has been ousted by coffee as the nation's favourite drink.
Absolutely.
Sacrilege.
Well, I mean, what we love is that one of the producers said the Brits are now going for lattes over tea, and he wrote the absolute sickos. It stirred emotions in the office this morning. So it's found that a milky latte is the choice for 46% of British hot drink drinkers, and 56% would go for coffee over any sort of coffee over the traditional cuppa. I don't drink either. So that makes me totally weird.
How do you get...
You're the problem.
How do I get my caffeine fix?
How do you get wired in the morning?
Coke Zero. Coke Zero.
What? Early
That's got no, Has it got caffeine in? Coke
no, Coke Zero, yeah, not the caffeine-free one, yeah.
No.
The one will be coming out as soon as we're off the set to keep me going for the second hour.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I know.
Alex, you like a cup of tea, don't you?
Yeah, like the reality is, like, cups of tea, coffee, I think there's lots of people that drink both. I do think, though, that a lot of people have this, like, weird tribalism. It's like you can only be a coffee drinker or tea drinker, and you're not patriotic if you don't drink, you know, tea. You should get rid of coffee. I think it's just like people can enjoy both, you know, it's fine.
I was thinking an energy drink this morning.
Oh, that's worse.
Oh, no,
that's worse.
And you offered me some, but you didn't give me any.
I said to Eddie, do you want to get buzzed up for the show? Have some of this? No, you're OK, thank you, you weirdo.
See, I'm with you. I think you've got time for both. I start with the black coffee, takes me to about midday, and then it's tea from there on out.
Well, I drink a hot Ribena, which I always thought was like the most childlike thing. I saw
That's good,
at Junction Station today. You can now buy it. You can now buy it on the...
hot Ribena? Yeah. That's the thing, is it?
It's really good, yeah. Don't knock it till you've tried it.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah, very
I've never tried
comforting.
it, to be fair.
Feels nostalgic.
Sounds absolutely juvenile.
It probably is, but it's yummy. So don't knock
And I'm a very serious, mature person, so we're getting involved in that.
Sometimes. Thank you, you two. We'll see you in the next hour.
Coming up, we're going to be getting stuck into the US election again. Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. Nelson Aspen joins us live from New York.
Yeah, and we're also going to be talking about celebrities flocking to Portugal. Why? And are we all missing a trick?
Yes, property expert from Portugal will tell us all in just 3 minutes. Back in a sec.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
National Trust Director General has said something rather curious. She's admitted that 70% of the charity's staff are Union Jack-hating progressive activists. Yes, this was speaking at a Labour Party fringe event. The boss of the charity, Hilary McGrady, acknowledged that there was a gap between her staff's views and the views held by the wider public. So was she being honest? Joining me now to discuss this is historian and broadcaster Rafe Hadel-Mankoo, who I believe is with me. Rafe, thank you very much indeed. Can this be true?
The founders of the National Trust and later figures involved in it, like my hero James Lees-Milne, were really motivated by love of nation. But I think that love of nation in the Trust has become actively, national self-loathing. And that's really the state of modern Britain. And with the Trust, I mean, what we've done is we've actually entrusted our national heritage to those people who actually actively despise our national heritage, and it's utter madness.
Have these people wanted to take over charities like the National Trust for their political ends, or is it just something that happens? Is it just the type of people who work in charities?
This has been part of the long march through the institutions, that people need to understand that Britain is now a post-revolutionary society. So the buildings that house our institutions look the same, but the people who now run them bear no comparison to the generations who lovingly built and ran them. They are cuckoos in the nest, and we need to understand that. And of course, once you realize that, of course, that explains completely why, the National Trust and others have crudely tried to denigrate our national heroes and link them and their houses to colonialism and slavery, as they ludicrously tried to do.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. I'm just trying to make my way around the Cadbury family tree.
It's complex.
Apparently, Ruth Cadbury, the Labour MP for Brentford and Isleworth, who I just mentioned in the previous segment, is...
That is absolutely no relation to Cadbury family.
I said no relation to the Chocky people. Apparently she is. She's a descendant of the Cadbury family. She's the eldest child of Charles Cadbury and Jill Ransom. She is a member of the Cadbury family, a notable Quaker family, which includes the Cadbury Chocolate Company founders. So, yeah, full of chocolate beans, she is.
She was educated at Bourneville College in Birmingham.
That's where the... Have you been to the Cadbury's factory?
No.
Oh, it's in Bourneville.
That sounds great.
Yeah, my mum took me when we were quite young.
And they have their own college?
They must do, yeah. I wasn't aware of that.
Well, she went.
Oh, very good.
I feel like we need to... This is a documentary in the making.
Do a GBN Originals.
Yeah.
At the Chocky factory or the Bourneville College?
I think it would be rude not to go to the chocolate factory, and I think we should do it all.
Yeah. Other brands are available.
Other brands are available.
Yes, and some other views have come flying in. Sharon, we were talking about, weren't we, the leaving back in the day. I mentioned I saw some picture or documentary of people, mothers used to leave their babies in their prams outside cafes and shops and whatever.
Yeah, it still happens in Nordic countries.
And they're all lined up. And the societal trust is so much that they can just leave them outside and they go inside. Sharon, you said, my man left my sister outside the baker's, went home and realised after some time something was missing. My sister and the pram, first child.
Oh, no!
I think David Cameron did something similar, didn't he?
Yeah, David Cameron did forget his child once, that is true. Pat says, I was only talking to my hubby yesterday about leaving babies outside of shops. Many of us actually forgot the baby and walked away. Because obviously there's a theme here. Suddenly realising that we were missing something and had to go back.
And Philip, you said, back in the day, my mother-in-law left her daughter, now my wife, outside a shop, came out and went home without her and only realised some hours later, that the pram was where she left it. Goodness me.
So you all just left your babies outside shops, basically, is what we're getting from the views here. But everything's turned out OK. So...
Could that happen today?
No.
Or could you return hours later with the baby still there? I don't think so. Society's changed. One more from Kirsty. Matthew Larzer said, and I didn't know this was a thing, you did.
Yeah, it's yummy.
He said there's hot Ribena available from various train stations. Kirsty, you've said, hot Ribena is like Lemsip. Bath, vomit.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kirsty.
Tell us what you really think, Kirsty. Thank you for those.
GBnews.com/you'll say. Now, do you fancy moving to Portugal?
Anywhere but here.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
please.
wouldn't mind it, actually, if it's a lot warmer.
Well, some Brits and celebrities such as Harry and Meghan are flocking to the country as they don't have to pay as much tax as over here.
Yes, and with that painful, as we're told, October budget still to come, are we missing a trick? Well, let's speak now to Sales Director at Savills for Quinta Properties, Raquel Santos, who is live for us in Portugal. Raquel, good to see you this morning. Why are all these celebrities flocking to Portugal all of a sudden?
Hi, good morning. Yeah, I guess it's just because of basically the great lifestyle that we have, security. You know, Portugal has kind of been a hidden, tucked away gem for quite a while that people didn't realize existed. And with the international flights that, you know, with the American flights coming in, it's kind of been put back on the map as a country that's worth visiting and worth investing in due to the secure investments that we offer in real estate.
Raquel, is it anything to do with tax rates? Because I think capital gains tax is, I think if it's over a certain amount, you pay half of your rate, which is 28%. Capital gains on shares and cryptocurrencies is 0. Is it anything to do with that? Because over here in the UK, big storm at the moment about millionaires apparently leaving in exodus because of the mooted increases in taxes in just a few weeks.
Yes, so obviously the alterations that are happening with the UK in terms of the tax that's being implemented on the capital gains, as you mentioned, we've definitely noticed has become a big drive, mostly on the vendor side as well, who are looking to sell because they don't want to be hit, you know, with these higher capital gains, which is close to coming into effect.
Raquel, have you noticed then millionaires, high net worth people from the UK getting in touch with you looking to relocate?
Definitely. It's for multiple reasons. Obviously, the changes that are due to come into place obviously play a big role, but it's not just that. Over the years, there's been various political changes and there's been various, you know, shall we say, just global and economic alterations. And Portugal just seems to be a safe option always when things do kind of change. People opt to come into Portugal because we're quite steady, we're quite stable. And again, lifestyle plays a big part. And yes, in terms of the capital gains, it is quite attractive over here.
Raquel, somebody I know, not me, was looking into
He wishes.
Was it me? Your golden visa scheme. Are you still doing the golden visa scheme? And can you explain what it is?
So the golden visa scheme has changed a little bit over the years. Before, people could come and purchase a property with $500,000, you know, you could get into the golden visa scheme. That has changed. It's become mostly the D7 and for the nomads, which is now basically the visa that people are really looking at when purchasing here. And obviously the way the country is set up, where we're located, is an easy, basically, place to work from.
And Raquel, I wouldn't be British if I wasn't asking you about the weather, because it might be a wise financial decision, but I think lots of people would consider moving to Portugal just because it's a lot warmer in the winters than it is here.
Yes, our climate obviously is a big factor when people are considering various different countries. But I mean, today it's 22 degrees outside. So the weather is a big factor. You know, the coastal living, we go to the beaches pretty much all year round, obviously not to swim in the winter, but for beautiful long walks. The sun's pretty much shining. I won't say 365 days a year, but very close to it.
OK, Raquel, I'll see you on the Algarve very shortly. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Has she sold it for you?
Yeah, as I said, I'll go anywhere the sun shines and the tax rate is low. I'm easy, me.
Portuguese, though.
Yeah, no, I'm okay at Spanish.
Not the same thing, though, is it?
No, not quite.
OK.
Is it...
We'll work on it as a plan.
Ellie, I want to know...
Yes.
Is it unpatriotic to flee the UK for better weather and lower tax rates?
Is it? Yes, it is.
And also, if you're not happy with... I speak to people here, I won't name who, but I speak to people and say, I think things are going so downhill here. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news.
On a Saturday morning.
On a grim Saturday morning. But I say, you know, look, I don't like the way the country's going. And they say to me, yeah, but you need to stay here and
help build it up
fight and try and improve it. And is it unpatriotic to do a run-up?
I can see both sides, especially with the weather.
It's
bad thing to say.
It's the weather.
It's very depressing in the winter, how dark it is. But maybe that's part of being British, I don't know.
You wake up and it's dark, and you go to work and it's dark, and you come home and it's dark.
It doesn't do a lot for up here, does it?
No.
It's just always dark and miserable.
And I love the sun. It makes you feel so happy, so much better. You know, when it's a sunny day in summer, we rarely get those even in our summers. Everybody's happy, everybody smiles, the energy level's up a bit, everybody's up a gear, and life is a little bit easier than it is normally.
Yeah, it's yeah, advantageous, isn't it?
Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say.
This one's caught my eye here about leaving babies outside of shops. And apparently lots of you left your children, or have been left as a child, outside your shop. Christine says, you wouldn't leave your dog outside a shop now, let alone a baby. That is very true, Christine. When I see babies outside shops now, dogs get nicked.
Really?
Yeah, dogs get nicked all the time.
Aren't they tied up?
That doesn't stop anybody untying them.
Was it hoodies with, like, chainsaws coming?
No, I just think that dog napping is a thing.
Oh.
Yeah. No, you definitely wouldn't leave a dog outside a shop now, and I get very concerned when I do see a dog outside a shop.
Have you got pets?
No, I really want a dog. Well, I've got a family dog, but I want my own.
Yeah, I'm not much of a dog person. I like cats.
You should get the boys a pet.
They really want one. Zach is...
I think it's about...
He's mad about animals.
How can you want about 100 million children and you wouldn't have a family dog?
I'd rather have another baby than a dog. I think they're just as much work.
Yeah, I'd get
Seriously.
both if I were you.
Anyway,
Yeah. Keep those views coming in, gbnews.com/your say.
OK, still to come, we'll be getting stuck into some showbiz news with showbiz juggernaut, as I call her, Steph Tetchy.
But next, Nelson Aspin has all the latest from the presidential race in the US.
Morning. Not quite the calm before the storm, but for many today will be a fine and bright day, and then tomorrow we'll all see a wet and windy spell. For many it will just be that, but for some, well, storm actually could bring some disruption. Back to this morning, though, and it's a pretty drab start over much of eastern England. Cloud and outbreaks of rain only slowly pulling away, but it should be turning drier as the day goes on, certainly brightening up over the Midlands and elsewhere. Many places seeing some sunshine in the west. A few showers across the northwest of Scotland. Breezy here, but for most places the wind's lighter than yesterday, and as it brightens up we see some sunshine. Temperatures a touch above average, so feeling pretty pleasant in that sunshine. It might just take most of the day before the sun finally pops out across East Anglia and Kent. But for many, it'll be a fine and dry evening. I did mention a few showers just coming into western parts of Scotland. Pretty well scattered, so somewhat hit and miss. Much of eastern Scotland dry, along with central and southern Scotland. A fine evening here. Same goes for Northern Ireland. Clear at first, but we will see the cloud increasing later on. And for most of England and Wales, much of this evening dry with lengthy clear spells. But eyes out west, because developing during the course of today a storm system. This is Storm Ashley, named by Met Éireann, the Irish Weather Service, but it is likely to bring some problems to parts of the UK. As we go through the night, it'll start to introduce wet and windy weather to Northern Ireland, the rain spreading into Wales and the southwest as well. It will introduce milder conditions. Ahead of it, it will turn a little chilly. And then for tomorrow, spell of wet weather swinging through, but it's the winds giving us the greatest cause for concern. A Met Office yellow warning covering Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northwest England and North Wales, and an amber warning for the far northwest, where gusts of 70 to 80 miles an hour could cause some disruption. Potential for structural damage, even branches and trees down. Further south, just a wet and windy day. But across the north in particular, Storm Ashley could cause some problems tomorrow.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home? Talking about? Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy. Man of the people.
It's all vibe. Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Loads of you getting in touch with us this morning. We're loving it, aren't we? We're saying it's keeping us all very entertained in the GB News inbox.
Yes.
Loads on Portugal, haven't we?
Yes, talking about Portugal, Ange, you said, "Hi Ben, we've been going to Portugal for many years. It's always been there. My fear now..."
It has always been.
Yes, funny that. It's going to become fashionable with all sorts of wealthy and will 100% be spoiled. It will drive up costs and become unapproachable. Sick of the sheep mentality. Yeah.
And it's a very good point. I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, we could have loads of people flocking to Portugal now. And Philip has suggested that we need to go to Malta.
Oh, yes.
Drive on the left there, most of the time.
I've never been to Malta.
And it's usually sunny. I've just been to Malta. I went for a hen party.
Any good?
Yes, I really liked it. Very hot. Water's nice.
I'm a bit ignorant on Malta. Was it a former British overseas territory?
Yes.
Sorry, putting you on the spot as well.
I believe so. Who sent that in? Philip, let us know.
Philip, let us know. Susan, you said, good morning. I lived in Portugal between 97 and 2011. There were thousands of English people living there. And in the summer, it was difficult to get into restaurants.
That's what I mean.
We lived in the Algarve. The sun did not shine all year. And someone else said, Starbreaker, Ben, unpatriotic but sensible to pursue the warmth. That's what you said.
I think we can understand that. I said the same thing.
I just need it on my skin.
I know. Makes me feel good.
I need to warm the cockles. I need the tan. Everyone looks better with a tan, don't they?
Well, yeah, it's true. Should we go from Portugal to the US?
Yes.
Vice President Kamala Harris appears to be losing momentum in the presidential race after some, how do we put it, ill-prepared interviews this week.
And that's apparently the excuse for why he's not doing interviews. And, of course, he's not doing the CNN town hall. He refuses to do another debate. And, you know, look, being president of the United States is probably one of the hardest jobs in the world. And so we really do need to ask if he's exhausted being on the campaign trail. Is he fit to do the job? And I think that's a question that is an open-ended question that he needs to answer.
Is he fit to do the job? We've heard that before, haven't we?
About Joe Biden.
But it was about Joe Biden.
Tables have turned.
has come back into the presidential race, which has been really interesting this week.
Her interviews have led to criticism, most notably from Republican candidate himself and White House wannabe Donald Trump.
Kamala Harris said she thinks you're exhausted, that's why you're cancelling events. Are you exhausted?
What event did I cancel? I haven't canceled. She doesn't go to any events. She's a loser. She doesn't go to any events. She didn't even show up for the Catholics last night at the hotel. It was insulting. All they are is sound bites. So today I was at Fox and Friends at 7 in the morning. I then went to 2 different other appearances. I then made about 15 phone calls. I've gone 48 days now without arrest, and I've got that loser who doesn't have the energy of a rabbit. Let me tell you something. She should have been last night with the Catholics. So all they do is put out sound.
Well, we're joined now by journalist and author Nelson Aspen, live from New York. Good to see you as always, Nelson, and absolutely fascinating, isn't it, that the topic of age has come back to the forefront of this presidential race, but it's not Trump using this card now, it's Kamala Harris.
It does seem rather desperate, and you can say a lot of things about Donald Trump, but one thing you cannot question is his vitality. That man has the energy and the stamina and the fortitude of an army. It is quite unusual. And Kamala Harris is in a bit of trouble. She's losing the gender gap. Men are gravitating towards Donald Trump, even the demographic of Black men. And he has managed to tap into something. And we've talked about how close the polls are, and they continue to be very close. Some voters having a slight edge in other places. But the thing you have to remember about those polls and the margin of error is the fact that Kamala Harris supporters shout it from the rooftops that they're voting for Kamala. Donald Trump supporters are not always so vocal. There is a large swath of closet Trump voters, and I think that is going to make the difference. So it's not necessarily about who's polling better. I think it's all going to boil down to turnout on Election Day. 17 days away.
Yeah, not counting, Nelson, not counting. I was thinking of actually getting a plane over to America to just experience the election, just off my own time.
He wants to come and see you, Nelson.
I'll come and see you for. You can take me for a coffee down in New York.
Come up to my place. We'll have a viewing party.
Yeah, I'll hold you to that. Nelson, did you see Kamala's interview with Brett Baer on Fox News? And if so, how do you think it went? Just explain to our viewers the highs and the lows.
I was one of the nearly 8 million people who tuned in for that interview, and I thought it did her some good in the fact that it presented her as a statesman. We really haven't seen this side of her where she isn't cackling on a chat show or sharing a beer with somebody. This was a more serious, somber, sober moment, although in her responses, she was, as usual, very short on specifics and detail. She apparently showed up late for the interview. She was promising approximately 30 minutes of interview time. She showed up late and was also, her handlers were wrapping her early. So Brett barely got 20 minutes in. But they both did the best job that they could. I thought what was rich in the interview with Brett was she, in trying to criticize Donald Trump at one point, she said, you got to take responsibility for what happened in your administration. And given the fact that so many bad things have happened over the last 3.5 years during her administration, she's going to have to answer for that.
Nelson, we're almost out of time with you, but I wanted to ask you about Donald Trump, because he swapped the rally stage, didn't he, for a comedy night, you could say, the Al Smith charity dinner on Thursday night. And this is, as I understand it, kind of a traditional event that happens in the campaign trail schedule. But Kamala Harris didn't go.
It's an event that's been happening since 1960, and it's a great chance for unity between the parties, a rare thing these days. Ronald Reagan referred to it as a rare time when politicians actually act like statesmen. And Trump, I don't know who his comedy writer was, but he certainly did deliver some zingers. Kamala Harris, as you mentioned, did not show up, and it was really a snub on her behalf. She said she was busy campaigning, fair enough, but she sent in a rather bizarre video with Saturday Night Live star Molly Shannon in character from one of her sketches from that show. And it was, according to folks in the room, rather cringeworthy. People watched this video and then really didn't know what to make of it. And there was a stunned silence afterwards. Of course, Kamala supporters thought it was brilliant. Trump supporters thought it was terrible. But the vibe in the room was, what the heck is this?
Yeah. OK, Nelson Aspin, you said it, 17 days left. I'm here for it. You're here for it.
I'm here for it.
Maybe see you in New York, my friend, and we'll catch up next week. Thank you, Nelson.
There you go, you got an invite. To Nelson's place for a watch party.
Yeah, nice. Bagels.
We could do a GB News special from there.
Oh, and you what, on my phone?
Yeah, you should.
Hey, it's Ben live from Nelson's sofa.
Nelson's sofa, I think it's a good one. Stay with us. We're going to be discussing Liam Payne's death because his father is now in Buenos Aires and he's thanking fans for being there. We'll be talking to Steph Tecci about all of that in just a minute.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
You must be so proud of your daughter being so just amazingly brave and a model for other people who face illness.
I think we're proud of her all day, every day, and always have been. Liz has always given her all to anything she put her mind to, whether that was studying for her GCSE exams at school or whether it's been her photography and battling cancer. Liz never does anything by half, and we are so incredibly proud of her each and every day.
And Liz, I noticed a wonderful line from you saying that when you've got cancer, A-levels don't matter so much. That seems to me to be a very reasonable view to take and has given you then the chance to do these other amazing things that you will be doing more of in future with the London Ambulance Service. And I imagine many people will want to help you with your bucket list because they've now seen you and seen how brave you are.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we've already been overwhelmed by the responses and the support by so many people. I think when my mum originally posted the list, it received like 4,000 replies. It was insane, and still there's more. So from the bottom of our hearts, and especially mine, we just want to say thank you, because there's nothing that forces anyone to get in touch and say, hey, I have something you can do, pop over and do this or that, or it's just out of the generosity of their hearts. So thank you.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. Just before we get into the showbiz, quite a few views on babies being left outside of shops.
Yeah, apparently everybody's left their child outside shops at some point in their life.
We're all confessing this morning.
Including my mother. Good morning. Good morning, Mum. You say, I left Nicole, my sister, in a pram outside shops when we lived in, you won't know where it is, in Tory. I left and completely forgot her.
Oh.
My photographer friend was staying with me at the time. We hadn't seen each other for some time, and he reminded me that I'd left her. Yeah.
Oh dear, how many hours did you leave your baby for?
I have to ask.
They're all confessing to this morning, it's quite funny. But no one was ever harmed by the sounds of things.
No, and somebody else has mentioned about dogs. Oh, my laptop's scratched.
Ben doesn't like dogs, so Mr K has given me a word of warning saying, Ellie, you've got to be careful, you know what they say. Never trust anyone that doesn't like dogs, and never trust anyone that dogs don't like. So can't trust you as far as I can throw you.
Oh, yeah, see you.
Clearly, see you
later. No, I do like dogs. I do like dogs. I just...
That's the opposite of what you just said.
I think I just prefer cats.
Right.
I like animals, love animals.
He's digging himself out of this hole now, desperately. But yeah, do keep the views coming in. GBNews.com/your say.
Right, we're joined now by Showbiz juggernaut Steph Tetchy with all the latest Showbiz news. Good morning, Steph.
Indeed.
What's in your bag of tricks today? Some sad news on the tragic story of Liam Payne.
In the 3 days since Liam Payne passed away, as you can imagine, there's just been this big frenzy in the newspapers, online, everywhere about his death. But we forget that he is a part of a family, and his father, Jeff, has made the heartbreaking journey to Argentina to bring the process of bringing Liam Payne's body back to the UK. For this family now, their grief is public. It's not like a family that can mourn privately. He's really courageous, his father, because he spent time with fans outside the hotel where Liam died, and he's been looking at all of the tributes. He's been collecting his belongings. So it's a really tough process. I can't, you know, no parent wants to think about having to bury their child, and it's not right at all.
And we're just seeing pictures on the screen now. I think that is his father, Jeff, and Liam's bodyguard. I think he was the bodyguard from the 1D days, on the very balcony he fell from.
Oh, so I think at the moment they're just trying to paint a picture of what's happened, and I can imagine there'll be more that will be coming out in the next few weeks. But people around Liam who were close to him have now started coming out with their tributes. Last night it was Cheryl Tweedy, who has a 7-year-old son with Bear, and said, you know, people are seeing Liam as a celebrity, as a pop star, but they need to remember that he was a father and he was a family man. And now I need to have to deal with the process of handling a 7-year-old who's never going to see their father again. And she touches on the abhorrent reports that have come out in the 3 days. Because Liam's death happened in Argentina, the media have had a freefall in reporting this death. If Liam died in England, there's certain things we wouldn't be able to speak about and we would be restricted on. As he died in Argentina, we've seen pictures of his room and the drug paraphernalia that was available there. We're hearing all of these different reports, and Cheryl was just like, try and think if this was your family member or friend, how you would want them to be treated. So she really, you know, put this heartbreaking statement out, and there's other people, his bandmates from 1D, who've said they've all devastated. They've all come out with individual statements as well. Simon Cowell and Liam Payne had a bit of a rocky relationship after X Factor, but, you know, Simon says that he's been left empty and that every tear that he shed has been a memory of Liam Payne.
Oh, and he does say as well that you don't even realise how you feel about certain people until it's too late.
Yeah.
And he's only just realising now how special Liam was to him. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, and there's just so many questions now that's being raised in the industry about how they manage young talent as they get older after their so-called 15 minutes of fame is over. How do we ensure that they're still on being looked after mentally, you know, not being left to their own devices.
Yeah.
So I think there's a bigger talk that will be happening now.
OK. Yeah, I said yesterday, regardless of how much money you've got or how much perceived freedom you've got, it doesn't mean you're, you know, excluded from the same sort of demons that lots of us are.
Yeah, exactly. You could have it all, seemingly, and it's, you know...
It's the pressure, it's loneliness, yeah.
Stephanie, we're out of time with you, I'm afraid,
Thank
but thank
you for having me
bringing
on,
that
guys.
to us. We'll be
Take
back with you in 3 minutes, celebrating National Chocolate Week.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Morning. Not quite the calm before the storm, but for many today will be a fine and bright day, and then tomorrow we'll all see a wet and windy spell. For many it will just be that, but for some, well, Storm Ashley could bring some disruption. Back to this morning, though, and it's a pretty drab start over much of eastern England. Cloud and outbreaks of rain only slowly pulling away, but it should be turning drier as the day goes on, certainly brightening up over the Midlands and elsewhere. Many places seeing some sunshine in the west. A few showers across the northwest of Scotland. Breezy here, but for most places the wind's lighter than yesterday, and as it brightens up we see some sunshine. Temperatures a touch above average, so feeling pretty pleasant in that sunshine. It might just take most of the day before the sun finally pops out across East Anglia and Kent. But for many it'll be a fine and dry evening. I did mention a few showers just coming into western parts of Scotland. Pretty well scattered, so somewhat hit and miss. Much of eastern Scotland dry, along with central and southern Scotland. A fine evening here. Same goes for Northern Ireland. Clear at first, but we will see the cloud increasing later on. And for most of England and Wales, much of this evening dry with lengthy clear spells. But eyes out west, because developing during the course of today a storm system. This is Storm Ashley, named by Met Éireann, the Irish Weather Service, but it is likely to bring some problems to parts of the UK. As we go through the night, it'll start to introduce wet and windy weather to Northern Ireland, the rain spreading into Wales and the southwest as well. It will introduce milder conditions. Ahead of it, it will turn a little chilly. And then for tomorrow, spell of wet weather swinging through, but it's the winds giving us the greatest cause for concern. A Met Office yellow warning covering Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northwest England and North Wales, and an amber warning for the far northwest, where gusts of 70 to 80 miles an hour could cause some disruption. Potential for structural damage, even branches and trees down. Further south, just a wet and windy day. But across the north in particular, Storm Ashley could cause some problems tomorrow.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
This is the final week to grab your chance to win a whopping £36,000 cash in the Great British Giveaway. That's like having £3,000 each month for an entire year. Extra cash in your bank account that you can do whatever you like with. Make sure you don't miss out. Get your entry in now. Just one entry could make you the winner. For another chance to win £36,000 in tax-free cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2, or post your name and number to GB08 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close 5 p.m. this Friday. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe. Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, I'm Ellie Costello alongside Ben Leo, and this is Saturday Morning Live.
Very good morning to you. Happy weekend. Hope you're well, and thank you for your company this morning. An action-packed second hour in store today with our top panel, Alex Cairns and Matthew Larzer.
The King and Queen continue their 6-day tour of Australia as they are greeted by the country's Prime Minister and a torrential rainstorm. Our royal correspondent Cameron Walker is in Sydney for us.
Welcome to Sydney. The King and Queen have spent their first night in Australia. No engagements today, but tomorrow it's a jam-packed schedule. I'm here to tell you all about it a little bit later on.
Looking forward to that. Elsewhere, the race to become Tory leader is on, with the odds potentially swinging in Kemi Badenoch's favour.
And it is National Chocolate Week. I think the best week of the year. We're going to be joined by Master Chocolatier Ollie the Choc. And of course, we're going to be eating lots of chocolate as well. What's your favourite chocolate bar? Let us know. I'm very boring. I like Dairy Milk or Galaxy.
Yeah, that is boring.
I know,
just plain.
I'm the same with pizza. I like a margarita. I just think if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
You need some texture in there, some nuts or raisins or some chewy nougat.
It tracks from the perfection that is.
I like. What do I like? I like.
You like chewy chocolate.
Lion bars, peanut, green and blacks, milk chocolate.
Okay.
I like white chocolate as well.
Yeah, as for Stephanie Tetch, you were just asking her. Everyone's got an opinion. Let us know yours. gbnews.com/yoursay.
Yes, but before we do anything else, Will Hollis has all your news headlines.
A very good morning to you. Thanks, Ben. And Ellie, your top stories. The Prime Minister has insisted the government will stick to its manifesto pledges amid reports the Chancellor may extend a freeze on tax thresholds. The Financial Times writes Rachel Reeves could raise £7 billion in revenue if the freeze is extended until 2028. It could help plug some of the £40 billion gap in the Treasury's finances, with a hope of avoiding a return to austerity. But critics say it will break the Labour promise not to raise taxes. To Australia now, the King and Queen have spent their first night in the country ahead of their royal tour of Sydney and Canberra. The couple's 6-day tour of the country started yesterday with a greeting on the runway by Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. The visit includes a trip to the Australian War Memorial and Sydney Opera House, plus Parliament. GB News royal correspondent Cameron Walker is in Sydney.
It's a rest day for the King and Queen's Day following their very long journey from the United Kingdom, partly a decision taken because of the King's cancer diagnosis, making sure he's got enough energy to carry out his engagements later on this week. The King and Queen has an informal cup of tea with the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese last night. Tomorrow they'll be attending a church service in northern Sydney where they are expected to meet members of the public.
However, the visit prompts questions over the country's future as a constitutional monarchy, with calls for it to become a republic. Earlier, Cameron spoke to Alexander Volz from the Australian Monarchist League, who says the support for the King and Queen is strong.
I think the tour is going to go really well. We're very optimistic, and at the end of the day, it's a reminder of the significance of our system and just how wonderful it is for this country. We love a bit of patriotism in the Monarchist League. We're very proud of our country. We love being Australian. We love our King and Queen of Australia. And so, yes, we'll be distributing a lot of flags. I think we've got about 15,000 ready to go.
A drone strike on the holiday home of Israel's Prime Minister failed, sources say. Fired from neighbouring Lebanon, 3 drones were aimed at the town of Caesarea, with 1 hitting a building and 2 intercepted. An Israeli spokesperson says Prime Minister Netanyahu was not in the area at the time of the attack. There have been no reports of casualties. Meanwhile, Iran's supreme leader says the death will not halt its axes of resistance. The father of pop star Liam Payne has arrived in Buenos Aires to begin repatriating his son's body. Jeff Payne was pictured visiting the Casa Sur Hotel, where the One Direction singer fell to his death from a 3rd-storey balcony just days ago. Officials confirmed a search of the hotel found narcotics, alcohol and destroyed objects. His family have said they're heartbroken. A car being driven by a heavily pregnant woman flipped 3 times when it crashed with an unmarked police car in southeast London, according to an eyewitness. The witness told reporters he saw the police car driving on the wrong side of the road before it collided with her on Thursday night in Eltham. Both the woman and her baby died from their injuries. 2 officers have since been discharged from hospital, and an investigation by the Independent Office for Police Conduct has been launched. And finally, could this be the comfiest seat in the country? Well, that's what the company making the chairs for the HS2 rail service is hoping. Passengers will be treated to 87 centimetres of legroom, 2 plug sockets and reclining features, according to the manufacturers Alstom. After backlash against some existing services comparing seats to ironing boards, leaders say they hope to rectify the industry's pretty bad job designing seats. Those are your latest headlines. Right now, back to Ben and Ellie.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Will, and good morning to you at home. Hope you're well. Thank you for joining Ellie and I on Saturday morning live. Let us know what you're up to this weekend. Anything exciting? Any plans? Diane, you've emailed in. You've said, oh, this is very sweet, actually. A bit sort of self-congratulatory, but you said, hi, Ellie and Ben. I work nights, but most weekends I'm never awake at this time, but I'm sick at the moment. Oh, poor you, Diane. Hope you feel better soon. You said, I love watching you two together. You bounce off each other. You're both upbeat, funny, and don't hold back. I'm not sure. Are you funny? Am I funny?
No, I had to say we have a giggle.
No, sorry, I meant to say, am I funny?
I think we have a giggle on a Saturday morning. I think that's what people want as well.
Thank you, Dan. Very kind of you, and I'm glad you're enjoying our company.
And I hope you feel better. Mr Kay's been in touch saying pubs. People go to socialise. They are massively important to keep British communities alive.
Yeah.
Visit your local for a pint, a packet of nuts, a chat, bring the dog. Yep. Bring the kids,
or the cat.
The other half, get out and visit once a week. If you can, you have to support our local pubs.
Yeah,
it is a great British institution.
Definitely, yeah, just about to say that.
You wouldn't like it if they're gone.
No, I wonder what life would be like if all pubs had... I mean, it'd be a very sad place.
It wouldn't be Britain.
In places like Wetherspoons, they're quite important to a lot of the elderly generation who... I mean, lots of old boys who go there to meet each other. It's sometimes their only sort of outlet to meet people, have a chat. I met my wife in a pub when we were young.
That's really cute.
Yeah, maybe a good alternative to sort of dating apps and so on. And Janie, you say... What's that? National Chocolate Week, you say?
You heard it right, Janie.
What joy. Never knew there was one, but I like it.
Yeah, we like it too. And we're going to be covering Chocolate Week at the end of this hour, so don't miss that.
Yes, can't wait. I think that's it. Any others? Labour, antiquing. No, I think that's it.
Well, keep them coming in. gbnews.com/yoursay.
Yeah. Right, the King and Queen, another great British institution, our monarchy. The King and Queen have spent their first night in Australia ahead of their royal tour of Sydney and Canberra.
Yes, the Majesties were welcomed to the country by the Australian Monarchist League, who plan to drum up support for them down under.
Our royal correspondent Cameron Walker is there in Sydney, live on the ground. Good morning, Cameron. What's the latest? What are the King and Queen up to today and indeed tomorrow?
Good morning, Ben and Ellie. Well, it's actually a rest day for the King and Queen here in Sydney. They landed last night to a big welcome ceremony with many of the great and good of Australia, I suppose, with the Governor-General, the Governor of New South Wales, and indeed several politicians. Ironically, all the politicians in the lineup at Sydney Airport were all Republicans, including the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. But earlier this year, he actually shelved plans to become a republic, and he did give the King and Queen a lovely kind of warm reception, an informal cup of tea inside his residence yesterday. He also released a statement saying their Majesties have a deep regard for Australia, and this visit will be an opportunity to showcase the very best of our modern and dynamic nation. But I spent overnight your time, morning my time, with the Australian Monarchist League. They're a group of volunteers, and they've been busy preparing for all the public engagements the King and Queen will be carrying out over the next 6 days or so, acquiring thousands of Australian flags, yellow T-shirts with Australian Monarchy League all over them, and they're hoping to hand out these flags to the public who are going to gather at the engagements to try and catch a glimpse of the King and Queen. The first time, of course, that a reigning king has ever stepped foot on Australian soil, trying to give them as warm a welcome as possible. I spoke to a spokesperson for the Australian Monarchist League earlier on today, Alexander Volz, and here's what he said.
As you can see here, the Australian Monarchist League is out in full force celebrating what is a momentous occasion. I think the tour is going to go really well. We're very optimistic, and at the end of the day, it's a reminder of the significance of our system and just how wonderful it is for this country.
Well, the King and Queen are thought to be staying at Admiralty House. That's the official residence of the Governor-General in Australia. They were spotted in the garden earlier today taking a stroll. Tomorrow will be the first official point that the public can see the King and Queen. That's at a church in northern Sydney for a Anglican service. There's several other engagements tomorrow. Then on Monday, they're flying to Canberra to the Australian Parliament.
And Cameron, this is not only a history-making trip for the King, the first time, as you say, that a king has stepped foot on Australian soil, but it's also history for you. It's your first time in Australia. What's it like to report in front of the iconic Sydney Opera House?
It's pretty surreal, Ellie, to be honest. I mean, I never thought I'd see it in person. Obviously, this has given me the opportunity to do so. It was beautiful yesterday when it was lit up with previous visits of King Charles and Queen Camilla through the years, because the King, this is his 16th official visit to Australia. So it's, it's kind of normal to him to come to Australia. Not for me. I was slightly upstaged by a cruise ship earlier on today, but no matter, we've still got the Opera House back. And it's very warm. Even when it was chucking it down with rain yesterday, it was still very warm. So it's not like British rain at all.
Cameron, if I were you, I would have snuck onto that cruise ship and filled my boots with the buffet.
Yeah. Very good plan. I'll try and see if I can do it after this hit.
OK, Cameron, thank you for that update. We'll catch up with you later in the day.
Oh, it's going to be the most amazing trip, isn't it? 6 days.
Really good.
Sydney, Canberra. And the Australian people, even if they're not monarchists, they look so excited for this trip.
And
it is history.
Isn't it great that when that jet landed in Sydney yesterday, the King came off and the Queen, he was met by the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, lots of members of his government, the fanfare. I know there's, some conversations in this country about the future of the monarchy. And by the way, the Republican group, the anti-monarchy group, they've gone to Australia to hold protests in Canberra. But regardless of that, isn't it great how sort of the legacy of Britain and, our culture and our institutions still making waves, across the world?
And I think the topic of Australia becoming a republic, at least what we're hearing from down under right now, is it has kind of stepped to the side for this trip.
Yeah.
They care more about the cost of living, they care more about their economy, they care more about being Australian, don't they, than they do about becoming a republic.
There was meant to be a referendum this year on the monarchy in Australia, and Anthony Albanese put it on hold. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. because, of course, this big visit this year.
Yeah, I think there is a sense that appetite has waned somewhat. There was a time in Australia when it was 2 out of 3 people in Australia were calling it
Really, that high?
Now it's less than 50%. Yeah, it is waning.
I wonder what it is in the UK. I think they're great. You know, I like some royals more than others, but it's one of the few remaining institutions which makes Britain great. Not everybody has what we have.
Oh, I love our royals.
The class, the history, the tradition, the buildings, you know, the pomp and the ceremony. And...
Yeah, there's no one that does it better than us. So let us know what you think of that one. gbnews.com/yoursay.
All right, Alex Cairns and Matthew Larzer are back in the studio with us to go through all the day's top stories. Should we start with this Rwanda-style migrant deal for the Chagos Islands in the Telegraph? So apparently, the Chagos Islands that we've heard all about in recent weeks, Starmer gave them away, they have their own Rwanda-style scheme to deport migrants.
Well, there's going to be one because there's a bit of an issue. Obviously, they're a tiny speck in the Indian Ocean, but they small boats do arrive there, particularly from Sri Lanka, which has a country with its own problems. So there was a group that landed. I mean, because we know it mostly the Chagos Islands. We always used to call Diego Garcia. Technically, it's called the British Indian Ocean Territory, the group of the islands. Diego Garcia is the military base which we share with the Americans. 61 Tamils have basically been trapped there for 2 years. The Americans are trying to sort of prosecute them because they think that they have... they're worried that they were there for their secrets. They were going to go on trial a little while ago. The Americans wouldn't let anybody in to observe the trial, so the trial was cancelled and they're stuck there in limbo. So the solution to that, it seems, is a Rwanda-style scheme, which is to send anybody who lands on the Chagos Islands in a small boat 5,000 miles away to another British territory, St Helena. And in order to bribe the people of St Helena to take them, the government is purportedly offering £6 million. Now, there are only about 4,500 people on St Helena, and there's only one hospital, so there's some concern there about how it would cope.
Yeah, how are they feeling about that? Do we know?
Yeah, so I think that there is some disquiet. Now, this cheque for £6 million may sweeten it a little bit, because we know per capita that's quite a lot, but it's obviously part of making sure the Americans are OK with the, as you say, giving them away of the Chagos Islands, giving them back to Mauritius with a 99-year lease on the base.
So, Alex, if it's OK for the Chagos Islands, why did Sir Keir Starmer get rid of the Rwanda deal?
Well, I think it's interesting, right, because everyone forgets that the Tories actually had a pending decision on the Chagos Islands. It wasn't like a sudden decision that Labour looked at, places on the map and decided, we're going to get rid of it. It was a pending decision, and I think there's a broader point here that there are lots of territories and, I don't want to go into the whole colonialism point, but actually, the broader point is it's not really ours to have, right? And actually it makes...
Whose is it to have then?
Well, I think there's a debate. I think obviously because of the geography of it, I don't know exactly the history, but actually if you think about the fact that it's closer to countries like Mauritius, like Sri Lanka, and actually really, what's the significance of us having it, right?
Well, I think on that point, people would say that it never belonged to Mauritius. It was uninhabited as an island. It then became a French colony, and then we took it over and it became British. It's only ever been British and French. I think that's what people would say to that. It's never belonged to Mauritius.
Yeah, so that's fine. I get that point, but I actually think that it's not an island that we need. This is the thing. I think a lot of people get really upset about the fact that they feel like the UK used to have lots of these colonies, and actually, I don't really understand why people get really upset about it.
Well, I think from a military perspective, the argument is now that China are going to be. I mean, they're apparently quite cosy with Mauritius, and China is now going to have a strategic base or influence on somewhere where we and the Americans previously had. So that's one argument of it. That's one side, the military side. That's why we need it.
Yeah, fine. So the military thing I understand, but actually I think there's a growing kind of perspective in the UK, and I think a lot of people I speak to, are concerned that actually there's lots of geopolitical instability, lots of wars in the world, and actually they want to see an ability for the UK government through diplomacy to try and prevent some of these wars. A lot of people always like, we need to strengthen the military, we need these military bases. Actually, I want to see, and lots of other people want to see, look at the Gaza-Israel situation, look at Ukraine, look at the China-Taiwan potential conflict. There's lots of countries where we're worried about what's going to happen, and we're thinking our first resort is, let's make sure that we've got military bases around the world. Actually, the diplomacy has to be the number 1 priority. We don't want to see any more conflict. So if people are worried about giving away the Chagos Islands because they think that China might invade certain countries, then diplomacy has to prevail,
Let's look at something totally different, shall we, Matthew?
Absolutely.
This is about how can we get the French to fall for fish and chips?
I know, this is extraordinary. So it's not just fish and chips, but a whole range of British favourites have been catching the taste buds, not just the eyes, but actually the taste buds of the French. So it's a new book in French called The British Cookbook, which is a tome containing 550 of the UK's most quintessential recipe, was published in France. And it has become a massive hit. And it's gone down, apparently, not just remarkably well in France, but especially well in Paris.
Yes.
Which, you know...
Christmas on side.
Is absolutely. It is quite a shock. So, I mean, trying to teach the French what a Scotch egg is, I think, has been quite an achievement. So it's Ben Mervis is the author, and apparently fish and chips with mushy peas, not garden, and of course my favourite, the trifle.
Trifle?
That's a good one.
What, pudding?
Yeah, for trifle for pudding. So apparently it is now an absolute boom moment for British food.
We have got
all thanks to this cookbook.
We've got great cuisine, haven't we? I know we're sort of talked down around the world for our cuisine, but
no, I think it's the best comfort food.
It is.
I mean, what else is better on a Sunday than a Sunday roast?
Absolutely.
I don't think we're talked down. I actually
Lots
think...
of gravy.
Yeah, lots of people come to the UK for our roasts. Lots of people like fish and chips. Lots of people like, you know, our steak bakes. Lots of people love our steak. I mean, like...
rolls.
Yeah, like, lots of people love our food. All right, maybe the French don't, because there's a whole debate about the French, and obviously they think their food's the best. That's fine. But actually, you talk to lots of people in other European countries. Lots of Americans love coming for our food, probably because their food doesn't taste great, to be honest, and is full of, like, rubbish.
We've got real food, though, haven't we?
Well, yeah, like, we grow a lot of our food, and there's lots of history with our food, you know, and actually it's part of our culture, you know. Lots of people love going...
British food done well can be brilliant, but it needs to be done...
for sure.
Pubs, though, I think a lot of the time the best food you can get is
in
a
pubs.
good pub.
Absolutely. So if you find yourself in Paris, apparently one of the hot restaurants is called the Public House, although it is a restaurant, not a pub. Pubs may be closing here, and the British chef who is overseeing it is called Callum Franklin, and he, along with the author of this cookbook, have been at the forefront of this boom moment for the British menu.
But even really humble dishes like beans on toast. Did you know, I've said this before on this channel, I said a nice little fact.
Favourite fun fact.
Beans on toast with brown bread has more protein than steak. And it's not bad for you.
Really?
Arguably higher sugar, but you've got the fibre from the beans.
Yeah.
Anyway, with a nice...
And you can get lower sugar. They do a range of beans.
Yeah, and with cheddar grated on top, a bit of brown sauce. I mean, that's a top...
I thought you were a southerner. I didn't think you'd go for the brown sauce.
Oh, brown sauce definitely on beans on toast. Grated cheddar.
Do you have baked beans in your jacket potato? Is that like...
Oh, yeah.
Some people would love that.
Beans and cheese, yeah.
Yeah,
that is the topping.
Not tuna and sweet corn. It's not tuna and sweet corn, it's tuna and sweet corn.
Beans and cheese.
Very good. Yeah. Well, we've got great food. That's what we've established. Britain's #1 for...
very good.
Definitely. There we go.
We like a bit of positivity in the morning. Thank you, you two.
Right, so thank you to you both. Coming up, we're going to be joined by Miriam Cates, who is live in Croatia for us. She's at the Family and Fertility Conference. Why is it so important that not just Britain, but countries all around the world try and get hold of this falling birth rate problem?
Yeah, make more babies, is what they're saying at this conference.
Do it.
Actually. We're also going to be talking about the Tory leadership race. It's hotting up. Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch vying for the top spot. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We are now delighted to be joined by comedian and my beautiful friend, Francine Lewis, who's here to share with us her upcoming book, The Last Laugh, and an exciting competition in collaboration with none other than that mean Simon Cowell. Francine,
he's not so mean anymore.
Oh, is he not?
He's not. And do you know what?
Having a child, is it maybe?
Definitely. It's really weird because I really liked Simon. He was nasty. I just found that, I don't know, quite sexy. Now he's way too nice. Way too nice.
That's what they say, isn't it? You get all the nice guys say, I never get any luck with women, and they always say I'm too nice.
Do you know what? The truth is, I've always thought Simon was lovely. He's such a nice guy. Like, when I was doing Britain's Got Talent, I was very, very excited, you know, to meet Simon again because it was the second time I'd actually met him. And I always thought he was such a charming, lovely man.
Of course, you are more recently well known for BGT and your impressions and whatnot.
Do you know what? I do watch a lot of reality TV, a lot of that sort of stuff.
What do you watch?
I love Tory, whenever it's Love Island's on. Seriously, honeys, 100% definitely. You got to watch Essie. It's all about Tory. Love it, seriously. So I'm always doing, you know, whatever the new reality shows are.
The favourite is Katie Price, and we've got a video. I think we've got a selfie video of us doing.
Have we?
Yeah, we have. From
I'm showing
years ago.
Tatiana to Katie Price, which she does amazingly. Come on, Tatiana, let's...
No, I don't.
Tatiana!
Katie, there's a mixture between Katie Price and Tatiana.
What do you think? I love when people take me off. It shows what a big star I am.
It's the lick of the lip.
The People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player app. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Live. We're loving your company on the views today.
Yeah.
Coming in, gbnews.com/yoursay.
Yeah, lots of fun comments. Where are we? No, we've done those ones. Grumpy Grandad, no, let's skip that. Blah, blah, blah. Here we go. This is from Trisha. Patriots in the USA would not be fine with Britain handing over sovereignty of the Chagos Islands on account of the Diego Garcia military base. Yes. What is this nonsensical call for the UK to be more involved in stopping wars in the world? I think was it Alex who was pushing that?
Yeah, Alex who was talking about that.
Yeah.
On the topic of baked beans, we're talking about baked beans. Ben's favourite fact is that they're full of protein.
Oh, there we go.
Sharon says, it is pure protein, Ben. A fave for us veggies.
Yes. John said baked beans and brown bread. Yes, please. So apparently...
emojis there.
Apparently the protein from the brown bread mixes with the protein from the baked beans to make a complete protein. That's what's better than steak. Well, more protein than steak anyway.
Very good. Sharon says, in the 70s, my parents dropped the Sunday roast because of health issues. Apparently there was too much fat in it. We didn't miss it, and we now only have a roast on Christmas Day. It depends how you do your roast. If we're having chicken, veggies, and some roast potatoes, I mean, it's not that bad.
Well, there used to be, I was talking about this with my mum the other day, there used to be this sort of era and this consensus that things like eggs and saturated fat were really bad for you and they'd increase cholesterol. And this idea as well that cholesterol in itself is a bad thing. It's not the complete story. And there's lots of studies now showing that just pure butter instead of margarine and processed other seed oils, pure fats, animal fats, aren't as bad as were made out. Eggs as well. Eggs are meant to be quite good for you.
So, Sharon, maybe you should be having your roast again. I think it's a very good idea.
Brexit Crusader, patriotic. You say pork pie mushy peas with mint sauce. Sounds good. And Andrew Davis, you say Sunday roasts are great unless you're the one cooking it or doing the washing up.
I don't know, I quite enjoy making a Sunday roast. You just got to get it's all about the timings.
What's the rule, though? If you cook, are you obliged to wash up?
No,
or is it
absolutely not. No, if you do the cooking, you don't do the washing up. But for a roast, you have to carve out about 2.5 hours, I'd say.
Oh, yeah.
To make a Sunday roast.
I don't mind the washing up because it's an excuse to get away from...
you can listen to your music.
The chaos, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, keep your views coming in. Keep us company this morning. gbnews.com/yoursay.
Right, to the... Sorry, Ellie, I'll jump in there. To the Tory leadership race now. Kemi Badenoch is now the odds-on favourite to become the next Tory leader. That was after her performance on our very special televised leadership event the other night.
Yes, and if you missed it, it was called The Race to Lead on GB News, hosted by our very own Christopher Hope. And at the end, there was a show of hands, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Who do they think
Kemi smashed it.
Kemi came out on top by quite a big majority, I'd say.
Yeah.
So, we're asking this morning, does Robert Jenrick still have time to claw his way back into contention? Well, let's speak now to former Conservative MEP David Campbell Bannerman, who joins us now. Very good to see you this morning, David. Thanks for your company. Did you catch the event on Thursday night and that big show of hands for Kemi Badenoch at the end of that event? Yeah. People saying she had the energy, she had the charisma. Do you think Robert Jenrick could still get in there?
I did watch it live, and I think the audience was pretty biased, to be honest. I mean, London is like Sunak, you know, it was very pro-Sunak. It's not the feeling in the country, the rest of the UK. There's very strong support for Robert Jenrick. I think he won the debate. He was the most sensible. He's the man with the plan. I still don't see a plan from Kemi, which really worries me, particularly on immigration. If we don't control immigration, as often, you know, GBNews reports, then I'm afraid reform's going to clean up. It's right behind us, a couple of points behind us in the polls. We've got local elections next year, the counties. It's a very worrying situation. We don't have time for years of thinking about policy, which is what Kemi is putting forward.
Yeah, David, Jacob Rees-Mogg said a similar comment about the audience. She did, Kemi, win a massive show of hands when asked at the end by Chopper who had won. But Jacob Rees-Mogg, as you've said, they were London-centric.
Yeah, on that, Ben, if you actually see, because Chopper, Christopher, asked the audience, you know, how many change your minds? There was only a scattering of hands, maybe 10 I counted. And, you know, so it was very pro-Kemi, but that's to be expected from a London audience. A lot of people like you, I'm in Norwich, you know, it's quite difficult to get down, especially a very short notice, which was given. And at Central Office, I'm not blaming GBNews, but it's not representative, and people shouldn't take that into account, what these audiences said, because it's not representative. As I say, Robert has amazing support all around the country because he's been working so hard. You know, she went on holiday, he didn't.
Yeah. David, the problem is, which I concluded the other night, was that if you agree with Robert Jenrick and you want to leave the ECHR, half of the Conservative Party doesn't. And that's coming at a time when he's saying, let's stop the drama, let's stop the squabbling and unite. But if he's still pushing that agenda of leaving the ECHR, which many people want to do, you're not also at the same time going to do what you're also pledging to do and unite the party, because it's going to do anything but that.
Well, you know, people have to sign up to the prevailing view of the membership. That's the whole point of having this selection, you know, and election amongst members. They can take a firm line. If they want to leave the ECHR, that is the will of the members, and MPs actually need to respect the members an awful lot more. We need total party reform. The only one talking seriously about it is Robert Jenrick. I mean, Kemi, I'm afraid, is just more of the same, continuity Sunak. And though I rate her, don't get me wrong, I think she's feisty, you know, she's been very pro-Brexit, anti-woke, she's got some great strengths. But I don't think she's leadership material. I think we need Robert there and Kemi in a very senior role underneath him.
What do you think, let's say Robert Jenrick were to win this and go on to be Tory party leader, what will he do about the issue of reform? Because you lost so many voters to the right. They have now gone to reform. It doesn't look as though they're coming back. I mean, you can't out-Farage Farage. And many people don't believe in Robert Jenrick's swing to the right. They think that if he were to win this leadership contest, that he'd just bring the party back to the centre.
Well, I mean, Robert's always been a Eurosceptic. He wasn't pro-Brexit, that's true. But no, I think he appeals. I mean, the research shows he appeals right across the board, including to Lib Dems and Reform voters. Well, you have to remember 27% of Conservative voters in 2019, the Boris voters, went to Reform. 27%. Only 12% went to Labour, 7% to Lib Dems. So we've got to go right. We've got to get those millions back. And Robert has played it right. Ken Farage says he doesn't want him back as a member. You know, it's totally wrong. It's mishandling that. And before you know it, they'll have more members than we do. We're down to 100,000. Reform is 80,000. And the thing I like really about Robert is he has the humility to say, look, this could get worse. And actually, you know, he wants to solve the problem. We don't solve the problem, it will get worse.
OK, David Campbell-Bannerman, thank you for joining us this morning. Have a good weekend. And for more politics, you can catch up on the Tory leadership candidates Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch going head-to-head by going to gbnews.com or scanning the QR code on screen here. Hopefully it will come up in a sec. There you go. If you don't know how to do it, by the way, grab your mobile phone, open the camera and scan the camera over that the QR code, the sort of block on the left of your screen. It should pop up with a little link which you click and it will take you directly to the GB News website.
Loads of you getting in touch on that. Megan saying membership are voting for Generic, serious policy for dealing straight away with serious problems.
Yes. Yeah, I got that feeling as well. I thought Generic was a better performer. I think Kemi took a little while to warm up. I think he was a more natural speaker.
I think Kemi's got the energy, Generic's got policy.
Yeah, Michael Gove, who's
the planner.
Michael Gove, the new editor of The Spectator, he wrote a piece saying that he reckons Generic's problem is that he looks too much like a traditional Tory boy, and Starmer would be happier swatting him away at the dispatch box as opposed to, say, Kemi Badenoch.
Well, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. Let's have a look at the news headlines now with Will Hollis.
Thank you, Ellie. The time is 11:30. Your top stories today. The Prime Minister has insisted the government will stick to its manifesto pledges amidst reports the Chancellor may extend a freeze on tax thresholds. The Financial Times writes Rachel Reeves could raise £7 billion in revenue if the freeze is extended until 2028. It could help plug some of the £40 billion gap in the Treasury's finances with a hope of avoiding a return to austerity. But critics say it will break the Labour promise not to raise taxes. The King and Queen have spent their first night in Australia ahead of their royal tour of Sydney and Canberra. The couple's 6-day tour of the country started yesterday with a greeting on the runway by Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. The visit includes a trip to the Australian War Memorial, Sydney Opera House and Parliament. The father of pop star Liam Payne has arrived in Buenos Aires to begin repatriating his son's body. Jeff Payne was pictured visiting the Casa Sur Hotel, where the One Direction singer fell to his death from a third-storey balcony just days ago. Officials confirmed a search of the hotel found narcotics, alcohol and destroyed objects. His family have said they are heartbroken. To Israel now. A drone strike on the holiday home of Israel's Prime Minister failed, sources say. Fired from neighbouring Lebanon, 3 drones were aimed at the town of Caesarea, with 1 hitting a building and 2 intercepted. An Israeli spokesperson says Prime Minister Netanyahu was not in the area at the time of the attack, and there have been no reports of casualties. Meanwhile, Iran's supreme leader says the death of Yahya Sinwar will not halt its axis of resistance. And finally, could this be the comfiest train seat in the country? Well, that's what the company making the chairs for the HS2 rail service is hoping. Passengers will be treated to 87 centimetres of legroom, 2 plug sockets and reclining features, according to manufacturers Alstom. After backlash against some existing services comparing seats to ironing boards, leaders say they hope to rectify the industry's pretty bad job designing seats. Those are your latest stories. I'm back with more in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Morning. Not quite the calm before the storm, but for many today will be a fine and bright day, and then tomorrow we'll all see a wet and windy spell. For many it will just be that, but for some, well, storm actually could bring some disruption. Back to this morning, though, and it's a pretty drab start over much of eastern England. Cloud and outbreaks of rain only slowly pulling away, but it should be turning drier as the day goes on, certainly brightening up over the Midlands and elsewhere. Many places seeing some sunshine in the west. A few showers across the northwest of Scotland. Breezy here, but for most places the wind's lighter than yesterday, and as it brightens up we see some sunshine. Temperatures a touch above average, so feeling pretty pleasant in that sunshine. It might just take most of the day before the sun finally pops out across East Anglia and Kent. But for many it'll be a fine and dry evening. I did mention a few showers just coming into western parts of Scotland.
pretty well scattered, so somewhat hit and miss. Much of eastern Scotland dry, along with central and southern Scotland. A fine evening here. Same goes for Northern Ireland. Clear at first, but we will see the cloud increasing later on. And for most of England and Wales, much of this evening dry with lengthy clear spells. But eyes out west, because developing during the course of today a storm system. This is Storm Ashley, named by Met Éireann, the Irish Weather Service, but it is likely to bring some problems to parts of the UK. As we go through the night, it'll start to introduce wet and windy weather to Northern Ireland, the rain spreading into Wales and the southwest as well. It will introduce milder conditions. Ahead of it, it will turn a little chilly. And then for tomorrow, spell of wet weather swinging through, but it's the winds giving us the greatest cause for concern. A Met Office yellow warning covering Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northwest England and North Wales, and an amber warning for the far northwest, where gusts of 70 to 80 miles an hour could cause some disruption. Potential for structural damage, even branches and trees down. Further south, just a wet and windy day, but across the north in particular, Storm Ashley could cause some problems tomorrow.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's fast tightly towards 11:40 on GB News. This is Saturday Morning Live with me, Ben Leo, and Ellie Costello. Now, former Tory MP Miriam Cates is in Croatia for the second European Congress on Family.
Yes. The Congress is going to debate various policies relevant to family life, namely, how do you get young people in Europe to have more babies amid falling birth rates around the world, and how do you fix social media addiction in children? Very big questions to try and cover in this Congress.
Well, let's see if we can get some answers now from Miriam, who is live on the ground in Croatia. Good morning, Miriam. Nice to see you. And yeah, it sounds like a really exciting and interesting event. What's it all about? Just give us a flavour of what's going on there.
Well, good morning, Ben and Ellie. Actually, it's afternoon here in beautiful, sunny Dubrovnik, not to rub it in too much. But yes, this is a fantastic event organised by the European Conservatives and Reform Group, which is one of the political groupings in the EU. But it's really to talk about the crisis that families in Europe are facing. So low birth rates, social media addiction, as you said, high housing costs, the problem of education, how to kind of restore a sense of purpose and loyalty to the kind of Western civilization that Europe has been part of for so long. And although we don't talk about these things a lot in Britain, we do share some of the same problems. So as our viewers know, birth rates in Britain are very low. And actually at the moment, if you take 100 people in Britain, they'll probably only have 49 grandchildren in 2 generations' time. So we're facing huge losses of population. But although we don't talk about it much in Britain, it is a huge topic of conversation here in Europe. And we've got MPs, MEPs, charities, different organisations from across the whole of Europe coming together to talk about what can we do about this crisis? Are there anything governments can do? Are there anything families can do to try and rebuild Europe and make sure that we do have a future that has children and a future that's prosperous as well? And I've got 2 fantastic delegates here with me now ready to be interviewed for a British audience. I've got Mr. Attila Beneda, who is actually the Deputy Secretary of State in Hungary for Family. And I've got Vlatko Kalinic, who is a TV presenter here in Croatia, but has also set up a fascinating organisation for young people, trying to help them make couples, eventually get married so that they can start a family. So, Mr. Beneda, I'm going to start with you first, because Hungary has become very well known for actually trying to tackle this problem of low birth rates and actually putting money towards the solution. So can you explain what exactly Hungary is doing?
Well, the demographic winter is all around Europe and unfortunately in Hungary as well. And we really would like to solve this problem with internal resources. So strengthening the families, we think the key, and that's why we introduced more than 30 family supports to help them, to support them. And with that, we hope that every wished children could be born.
So what does that look like? Is this changes to the tax system, more benefits for families, help with housing? What kind of things is the government doing?
Well, it's very complex in targeting. I would say we try to help the free decision of them. So we have a very complex home subsidy system, tax system. We try to help. For example, there is a personal income tax exemption for mothers more than for children for the entire life, and things like that. So we really try to support them in the life circle they have.
Okay, so if you have 4 or more children, you don't pay income tax for the rest of your life. I wonder what Rachel Reeves would think about that. Turning to you now, Vladka, so we know we've got a problem with not enough children being born, but it's not just couples not having children, it's not forming couples in the first place, isn't it?
Yes, and this is what we are seeing in Croatia, the rise of the asexual minority, young people who are not interested in any kind of relationships, and young people not entering long-term relationships. It's about the hookup culture, it's about one-night stands, and no one is looking long-term. And this is why I'm pushing on the Family Congress the singles agenda, because if we are talking demography, we are really have to be looking long-term and back on what is coming. And what is coming are generations that do not see the value of a long-term relationship, do not see the value of marriage, and are not seeing the value of bringing children. For them, it's enslavement. And we are trying to re-establish the value of marriage, and this is done through education, but also targeting the critical part of the population, the people that are in their 30s and their 40s, that came up with, this is important, I should have a child maybe now, I should have my own family, but they missed the mark. They were getting educated, they were getting a job, they were getting their housing, and now there's no one here to meet.
And they've left it too late. Thank you both so much for joining me. I think what struck me so much is how willing people are here to talk about what are quite difficult topics, which is very difficult in the UK, but I think we can learn a lot from people here, so thank you so much. Ben and Ellie, back to you.
Wow, thanks Miriam, great stuff. That's amazing, isn't it? The Hungarian scheme where if you have 4 or more children, the mother is exempt from income tax. That's great.
Yeah, I wonder what Rachel Reeves would think about that one.
Yeah.
But it is important to think about these things. It does future-proof our economy, doesn't it? And to have a plan for our population, which the birth rate is falling.
And also,
we've got to talk about it.
I think we kind of get lost and bogged down in the reasons for not having children or the numbers and the statistics. Having children is one of the most, I mean, arguably it's, from a biological level, the only reason we're here, to procreate.
Yeah.
But beyond that, having children is just the most magical, loving experience. You've got new perspectives.
And fun, I imagine.
And it's great fun.
Well, let us know what you
it's the best thing.
He's very passionate about it. Let us know what you think. GBNews.com/you'll say. I'm very passionate about chocolate. We're going to be talking about it next with Master Chocolatier Ollie the Choc. You don't want to miss this.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
The Daily Mail now, Josh, and pub landlords have to worry about more than the optics when it comes to offensive banter, it seems.
This is a really big story and important. Pub landlords could have to become banter cops to stop themselves being sued by staff offended by comments from customers under workers' rights reform. So, Labour, when they were part of their election process, they were like, we're going to reform workers' rights, and that all sounds good on paper, but there were issues in terms of, how might it affect employees and fear from employees costing them more money. One of these things that they're sort of pushing through, though, is that in the Equality Act of 2010, part of the issue was that if you were offended at work or someone said something sexist or racist, something that affected you, the employer had to take some sort of, they had three chances to kind of take action.
Yeah.
Now, the employer has to should have taken action already. So employees can sue employers. Now, this has a big impact on us because we're comics and we perform in venues. And if some of the bar staff hear a joke that they don't like, then they can sue their employer, potentially, under this legislation.
So it's not punters?
Well, also, it could be like you're at a bar and some bloke is like, oh, I like that top, or whatever. That's not good behaviour. But the point is now that employee could sue their employer.
So, because, I mean, the sort of scenario I was imagining was that a barmaid was being maybe sexually harassed or
That's
something.
That's what they're focusing in this article, but other articles have gone down the free speech route. Okay. And also venues and universities having lectures. We saw it at, in Edinburgh Fringe Festival and Sadowitz. He had a show cancelled not because of any punters, but because two of the 18-year-olds were working. They were upset by his
There was
wedding.
a bar in Brighton, wasn't there? There was a story we covered a few weeks ago. A bar in Brighton threw some people out because...
exactly. They had turfs on the...
turfs.
Yeah. GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, attention chocolate lovers, me, you, everyone else at home. This week is Chocolate Week, the ultimate celebration of everything rich, sweet and indulgent.
Yes, and we now have the best person in the studio with us to satisfy all of your chocolate cravings. We're joined now by master chocolatier, Ollie the Choc. Ollie,
hello.
Really good to see you this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And you brought some of your chocolate in with you.
I did. I brought some tasting samples. You're very welcome to help yourself.
So what have you got here? Tell us.
So this is my signature chocolate. I call it the Holy Grail. It's got sea salt flakes, crushed Oreo, caramel fudge pieces, very Moorish.
I love a caramel and salt combo, just, you know. I feel like you see it everywhere now. Look,
you won't be disappointed.
Look, I want everyone to see a close-up of this one. Can we get a shot on this one? So this is Oreo, there we are, caramel and salt. Do you want to try some?
You go first.
Help yourselves. And then this bar of chocolate is a little bit of a wild card. That's a mystery flavour. So
OK, I love a mystery.
I'm not going to tell you what that is.
Hold on this one. This one's amazing.
Are you?
Oreo, caramel.
That's my biggest seller.
I'll keep my palate clean for this. So this is a mystery flavour.
You've got to guess what that is.
Is that a nut in there, I see? Right, here we go. Ready?
I'm not saying anything.
Talk us through.
Very crunchy.
For me, I'm all about textures in chocolate.
Me too.
It has got a good crunch to it, hasn't it? It's not the kind of flavour that you would expect.
Oh, I can't get it.
Is it sweet? Is it salty?
No, it's salty, yeah.
It's
okay.
salty.
Hang on, bit more.
Okay.
Bit more.
I mean, just keep going.
Crisps? Wait,
It is crispy. It's crunchy. Could it be crisps?
I think it could be crisps. Yeah, it's crisps.
So what flavour?
Salt and vinegar. It's onion.
Yes, nailed it. You know.
Oh, you're much better than me.
Love that.
Do you know what? I think I've got a bit of a cold, so my taste buds are off.
Oh, you're going to blame that, are you?
That's my excuse. That's delicious.
Ollie, why do us Brits love chocolate so much? Is it partly to do with how versatile it is? You know, you just put two very different things in front of us. They're both delicious.
I just think chocolate is a fantastic product. Even the word chocolate makes people smile. There's limitless opportunities of what you can do with it. So for me, growing up in the family business, we're always experimenting with different flavours. You know, Mum and Dad have got a chocolate shop, Simon Dunn Chocolatier. We're based in Stockport. But yeah, it's also that nostalgia, I think, as adults. You know, taking us back to our childhood, like the advent calendars, selection boxes.
Yeah.
It's nostalgic, it's creative. It just makes people happy.
And there's chocolate for different moods, isn't there, I find? Anyway, if I'm feeling a bit more on the light side, bit of white chocolate.
Do you like your dark chocolate?
I do, 90%. I don't like the sort of 70% stuff. It's going to be proper bitter.
And that is a mood booster. That is scientifically proven to, you know, release endorphins and give you serotonin. So
antioxidants as well.
Exactly.
Bit of an aphrodisiac, is it as well?
It is that too. So they say. Yeah, it's a great product.
So how did Ollie the Choc get started then? So your family were in the business. They have their own chocolatier.
Yeah. Well, when I was younger, like me and my sister Camilla, like in the house that we lived in, smelt of chocolate. You know, Mum and Dad used to make chocolates downstairs. They had like a mini chocolate factory.
Bet you were popular at school.
Yeah. I mean, like Halloween, they'd be queuing down the driveway to get, you know, the best chocolate trick-or-treating. Yeah, it's...
And then you wanted to branch out by yourself, go independent?
Yeah, I think my dad had kind of shown me that he'd created something out of nothing, created his own business and brand, and I worked with him, and we still work really closely together, but I've been inspired by seeing him do that. And for me, it was creating not just chocolate, but experiences and creating memories, you know, family memories, children's birthday parties. I do a lot of, like, corporate events. And, yeah, for me, it's that whole giving people the experience, getting them hands-on, showing them how to make their own chocolate truffles, bars, lollies, and getting creative.
So, Ollie, you look like you're a pretty fit guy. You're in shape. You're a bit lean. That's a surprise, isn't it, for someone who works in a
It's often a question that I get asked.
Yeah,
People think I don't
I'd be the size
eat...
of a house if I wanted chocolate.
I love chocolate. I do eat it every day in moderation. I'm always moving, so I think that's the key, getting the right balance between the amount of chocolate that I eat and the movement. But, you know, I like to run, I play paddle tennis, so...
Where do you source your, is it cacao? Is that raw chocolate?
So we actually use a Belgian chocolate. We've always used the same supplier from Belgium, and what we do is we temper it, get it to the perfect temperature, so it has a really good shine, snap, and smooth mouthfeel, and then we use different moulds and techniques and, you know, to create different flavours.
Brilliant stuff. So if people want to see you in action, or they want to buy your goods, where do they find you?
So I have got a website, olliethechoc.com. Also, I'd love to invite people to come and see me at the Ideal Home Show Christmas, which is the 26th of November until the 1st of December this year. That's at the Olympia in London. I'll be doing some demonstrations there on the 27th, but there's lots of other fantastic chefs as well.
Yeah, it's good fun down at the home show.
It's amazing.
Been there a couple of times.
It's amazing. But
great.
Yeah.
Ollie, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for our chocolate as well.
Can we take this home?
Please do. Enjoy.
Love that. Thank you so much, Ollie.
Thank you,
Thank you to you at home for joining us on this Saturday morning live.
Yes, don't go anywhere. Dawn Neeson is next, and you and I are back next week. In the meantime, have a lovely weekend, and I'll catch up with you next week.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Storm Ashley arriving overnight tonight, bringing some very wet and windy weather, particularly across western parts of the UK. It's currently out in the Atlantic, moving its way towards us. We do have a very brief ridge of high pressure developing through this evening, bringing us some more settled conditions. And a frontal band out in the very far southeast will bring some rain for a time across southeastern parts of England. But otherwise, a mostly dry start to the night, maybe one or two showers across western parts of the UK, but generally starting dry. However, cloud increasing as we see that area of rain associated with the storm Ashley arriving through the early hours of Sunday morning. It will be quite a mild night, particularly under all that cloud and rain, temperatures holding up in the double figures in some spots. But it's those winds that will really start to pick up as we go through the early hours of Sunday morning. Quite widely, 50 to 60 miles an hour across those Irish Sea coastal regions, and some heavy rain associated with that too, particularly over the high ground of Scotland, northern parts of England. As that area of rain pushes its way eastwards, there will be some sunny spells across parts of Northern Ireland as we start on Sunday morning, but generally for much of England and Wales, it will be a cloudy and damp start to the day. As those winds pick up through Sunday morning, that area of rain will push its way eastwards quite quickly. It's still turning heavy at times, but there'll be some sunny spells developing